Good afternoon. Today our distinguished guest is Professor Sabrina Machetti from University for Foreigners of Siena. We as Ankara University have a bilateral agreement and an Erasmus agreement with her university and have sent many students to her in the past years and are hoping to do so also in the future. Professor Machetti has been guest professor at our university in several occasions. Today, she will talk to us about language learning and teaching at the time of COVID. The floor is yours, Professor.
Good afternoon and welcome to everybody. It's a pleasure, it's a really pleasure for me to be here and have had the opportunity to meet you, albeit a distance and in such a difficult moment for all of us. Thank you very much, Professor Nevin Oksan, for this kindly invitation. I have to say that for me, Nevin is not only an highly estimated colleague, but also a very good friend. Thank you, Nevin.
Thank you for accepting to come and be our guest.
I warmly thank also the University of Ankara who supported the meeting. And last but not least, many thanks to all the people who are following us today or will follow us during the next day. I mean, colleagues for Ankara University, also colleagues involved in our exchange program, and students and friends. Thank you very much. So I can start, I think, adding another word to my title, for the title of my speech, because I would like to speak about language learning, language teaching, and assessment too. I think that I have to use the three words, the words of the title of CFR, the Common European Framework of Reference for Language Learning, Teaching, and Assessment to start my conference. And I'd like to share with you some reflection about three main points. First of all, to propose some very general reflection on these processes, I mean, language learning, language teaching, and language assessment. At least they have been studied and promoted in the last 20-25 years, especially relating to the CFR and other European documents. Then I'd like to highlight some strengths and weaknesses of this process. And at the end, I try to understand in collaboration with you. Please give me some question and input to
I will do that. Yeah.
How language learning, language teaching, and language assessment have been or haven't been changing at the time of COVID-19. In my presentation, in my speech, I will refer to the context in which I work and where I mostly gain my experience. The context is the University for Foreigners of Siena, and many of you know that the university is a very small university, is an Italian public university, a small university, but with an international vocation, can I say, because our degree courses are in fact attended by Italian and foreign students, in particular by foreign students who are interested in training as Italian teachers, and who also have the opportunity to improve their language skills in Italia, in Siena, by attending classes at our language center. In this university, as many of you know, I'm also the director of Chills Center. Chills Center is the center for certification of Italian as a foreign language. In this center, we design and administer Italian as foreign language proficiency exams in Italy and all over the world, including Turkey. Also for this reason, in my presentation, I will also refer to language testing and assessment, which is a very important part of my daily work. So I can start by offering you some general issues, some general reflections on language learning, teaching, and assessment. Three very, very complex processes linked to each other, and I think it's impossible to see only a process without to present learning process without teaching process as without assessment process. From the 70s to date, academic research has made great strides forward, both on theoretical and applied dimension. Academic research has not been limited to the linguistic disciplines, but supported by other disciplines and driven by external factors as follow the cultural, social, political, and economic changes of the different society. In a nutshell, as for language theory, the construct has changed. New research has been implemented on the dynamics of language learning, and with these teaching methods and approaches, assessment methods and tools have changed. In Europe, but I think also outside Europe and in the more wide European environment, it seems to me that the Common European Framework of Reference for Language, CFR 2001, which perhaps remains unfortunately, the only explicit European language policy document to date, has marked an epoch-making change. It is a document that, beyond its context, has been able to give general guidelines and have opened a communication between countries and people on the topic of language learning, teaching, and assessment. Over the years, the Common European Frameworks or Reference for Languages has highlighted strengths and weaknesses, which I will now try to discuss, to present very briefly. On the point of view of strengths, as I said before, the CFR is the first explicit European language policy document, the result of the need to offer common standards of reference for all the European languages. It draws common lines in the name of transparency, coherence, and generality. In doing so, the document welcomes the result of years of research carried out in Europe and beyond Europe borders since the 70s on the issues of language acquisition, second language teaching and learning, corpora, psycholinguistic, sociolinguistic, pragmalinguistic, etc. In my opinion, the CFR incorporates also the echo of a philosophical tradition starting from the mid-20th century and shows attention to the dynamics of language use, as well as the importance of the social dimension in the construction and negotiation of meanings. The CFR has been the driving force for a very high number of projects involving thousands of teachers, teacher trainees, and policymakers too. What I can say about critical issues? First of all, I think that the CFR has, in many cases, been transformed into a simple label. A label to be applied to guarantee the quality of processes and products, often far from the minimum standards of validity and reliability. Second, the proposal of common reference standards for all European languages, which was even extended over time to include non-European languages such Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Arabic, etc., proved to be rather problematic from the outset. The diversity of languages is evident, but is more evident if languages are considered in their being not mere tools useful to communicate, but mechanisms for creating individual and collective identities. Third, there is in the CFR, in my opinion, a lack of coherence and transparency in several passages of the document, in several paragraphs of the document, due to logical lapses, ambiguities, and inconsistencies. Another critical issue concerns the audience, the so-called stakeholders. The language learning, teaching, and assessment is only adult-oriented. The attention to children, to young learners, to other people, I mean low literate learners, is completely missing. Another fundamental problem is related to the notion, this is a big theoretical problem for me, is related to the notion of linguistic communicative competence, oriented especially at, I think, only to the functional characteristic of language, the so-called know-how. In this notion, the attention to the linguistic features of language competence is, I think, missing. I suggest a very, very interesting article of Professor Jim Purpura from Columbia University. The title of article is Assessing Meanings. The article is from 2017. It's a very, very interesting article about the problem of the notion of linguistic communicative competence. So after the CFR in European environment, we have another very important document, because the European scenario dominated by the CFR was something like renewed in 2018 with a new document, the companion volume, a new policy document that revises and expands the CFR, not only for scientific and theoretical reasons and academic reasons as well. Behind the companion volume, we can find the political, the social need to respond to some EV issues that have recently arisen in the European environment, in the European context. The pressure created by the presence of non-European speakers with their minority languages, regional varieties, dialects, and the increasingly massive presence of new immigrant and migrant languages and new speakers frequently very, very low literate. Another reason was the impact of the new languages in the educational linguistic environment, in the educational linguistic landscape, where the traditional presence of classical and modern languages appears clearly destined to be complicated. The most relevant changes in the companion volume are represented by the new descriptors and new scales for mediation, for plurilingual and pluricultural competence, the new scales for the so-called level plus, new scales for level pre-1. However, the companion volume pays little attention to impact issues in order to make the impact, as you know, as positive as possible. For example, for the new descriptor for mediation or plurilingual and pluricultural competence, but also for the new descriptors for the online interaction or the use of the media. What is the criterion on which these descriptors are based? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. What knowledge do they refer to? I don't know. How can they be used in the classroom? Very big problem for us, for all the teachers around the world. What consequences will they have in teaching as in assessing and design language tests? So maybe I prepared a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe.
Oh, that's great. That's great. May I ask you a question while you're preparing to share your screen? Sabrina, thank you very much for these very interesting informations and your point of view as a professor and also as the director of these courses. It's interesting that you note that the migration issue has created also, let's say, another situation to deal with. And I know that's what I want to share with our audience as well, that your university has made a big step forward some years ago by publishing some pieces of poetry or prose produced by some of these migrants. One of your colleagues, Lucia Strappani, when she came to Ankara to visit us, she came with a volume of a book on literature, where we saw that there were these poems and proses created by the migrants. And this touched my heart very much, I have to say, because like Italy, we are also a country receiving migrants. And this is a big opportunity that your university has given to these people to express themselves. And I admired it, your, how do you say, your attitude in this way, in this concept. Please go on. I just wanted to tell something that that came to my mind when you talked about the migrants and their
Yes,
language.
thank you very, very much, Nevin. Maybe at the end of my speech, of my presentation, I can say something about the new project, also related to how can we teach the Italian literature to low literate people. Is a very, very interesting project, and maybe I
Yeah.
can say something about
Yeah,
this.
it would be very interesting for us to know, because we, as Ankara University, we also have a program regarding the Syrians and also other migrants to our country, teaching them language, and not only by trying to habilitate them to work in their own fields. So it is a joint project with the Germans, and we're quite good at it. It's the Turkish Learning Center, TÖMER, called TÖMER, which is in this project since many years, and they're very active and good at it. Yes, please. I don't want to
Okay,
interrupt you anymore.
thank you, Nevi. So
I thank you.
yes, I spoke. I tried to provide some general reflection about language learning, language teaching, and language assessment. My aim was to summarize the European situation, but also what's happening outside Europe, because in Europe we have CFR, we have the companion volume as standards. But outside Europe, I mean in US, you can find other standards, maybe more compulsory than our standards. So this is the European environment situation. But now I now turn to the second part of my speech or my presentation, and I'd like to dedicate the second part to the topic of language learning, language teaching, and language assessment at the time of COVID. How have the strengths and critical issues related to this process changed at the time of COVID? Changed or not changed at the time of COVID? In my opinion, the strengths and critical issues have not changed at all. Partly because of the pressure of the moment and the need to respond as quick as possible to an emergency situation. And so I believe that in the coming months, however, researchers and teachers, a lot to do to understand what has changed and what hasn't changed, not only in practical terms in our daily work, but also relation to the more general theoretical framework or reference for language learning, language teaching, and language assessment. Many things during the last months have changed in relation to the use of technology. You agree. And here I come to another issues of my presentation, and I come to it in a somewhat bitter way, because in those months, technology seems to be the point of everything. more important than content and contents,
Yeah.
and able to solve all our problem, our anxiety, everything.
Mhm.
And COVID give a vital role to technology. This is not new because technology existed even before COVID and played a central role in the processes of language learning, language teaching, and assessment. And because technology stays at the center of everything, in my opinion, it does not affect and cannot immediately affect the strengths and critical issues mentioned above. But I think that at the same time, generates new ones. Since I'm an optimist, I start from the strengths
Yeah.
of the use of technology, but I am also forced to illustrate some critical points, also referring to my personal experience, to the experience of my university, and the work we have done to date through language teaching and assessment, not only related to Italian language, but also to other languages. I mean, English as a foreign language, French, German, Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, Portuguese, etc. First of all, I think that technology is a very, very modern tool, instrument, appropriate for the globalized world, a tool to support language learning, teaching, and assessment very well. But the risk I see is that technology could be seen as the only aim of teaching and assessment, and not just as an instrument, as a tool. Second, a lot of students and teachers use technology daily and are therefore very, very happy to use it. It's also to learn, teach, and assess. However, the risk I see, however, there are many, many students and teachers who are not very familiar with technology, or they are part of that fairly large group of students who, for reasons related to their family, economic, political, cultural background, are a priori excluded from technology. Third, technology is a very nice tool that requires a change in content, method, strategies, activities, and therefore can bring a great input of renewal in the issues we are dealing with. However, in many situations, in Italy, for example, technology represents nothing more than a mechanical transfer of what is done in the classroom in presence without even any adaptations.
Mhm.
And finally, technology is effective because, even if in a different way, works to ensure the teacher-students relationship, support the motivation, can guarantee validity and reliability of the assessment. An assessment that is not only summative but also formative. However, in my experience in the University for Foreign of Siena experience during the last month, I think that many colleagues have talked these issues as very critical and difficult to manage and monitor in distance learning and teaching. How can I guarantee a good relationship from teacher and students at distance? How can I support the motivation with technology, nor in the classroom? How can guarantee validity and reliability of the assessment using technology? So I'm optimist. I'm very optimist, but if I can say something also to conclude, it seemed to me that the words of my rector, the name of my rector is Professor Pietro Cataldi, can well summarize the experience of the last months and how we would like to continue in the coming months. Professor Cataldi I close my speech by reading a piece of one on the latest Cataldi's interview. And Cataldi said, "We are keeping a difficult but necessary balance between the need to restart our teaching in the classroom and ensuring compliance with safety protocols. We are hanging between the desire and the fear of move on. We must encourage the former and understand the reasons for the latter. For teaching in presence, my university will start again in September 2020. We will see which classes can take place in this modality. But let's not forget that universities are research places, and this has never stopped. In these weeks, distance learning has been an emergency remedy. We must not make the mistake of thinking that it has revealed opportunity. If I only had a spoon to eat a plate of spaghetti, it will be better than nothing. But I shouldn't fool myself that centuries of folk civilization can be archived. We are looking forward to resuming face-to-face teaching, which enhances dialogue and exchange and represent an irreplaceable opportunity for living together. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much, Professor Machetti, for this wonderful speech, which was really very enlightening. And I'd like to ask with a question, if I may. You have talked about the positive and the negative traits of technology and of distance learning. Of course, we had to make a quick pass from our traditional way of teaching to distance teaching, let's say e-teaching. So it has been quite brusque, quite abrupt, but well, we have in Turkey, at least we have at our university, we already had a center for e-learning, e-teaching. So they gave us some courses in 4 days. The courses were repeated. We could ask questions and we got the answers. So it was quite good for us. We got prepared. We made some tests ourselves and then it worked. So my question to you would be, what do you think about blended education? Would that be a method to suggest for the future, which means not only in the presence of students, but also by e-teaching. Would that be a solution, 50-50 or 30-70 or 40-60%? Depends, of course, on the matter, on the subject, and of course, on the professor. As you say, not everyone is or can be prepared to teach in the same way or likes to do this kind of teaching. So what are your ideas? What do you think your university will, will choose for the future?
Thank you very much, Nevin, for your suggestion and for your question too. I think that the blended education, so blended learning, teaching, and assessment could be a nice, yes, a useful solution, especially for the next month, and I suppose for the next years.
Mhm.
Because the situation with the COVID is completely different from a country to another country, from a month to another month, and so we have to be very well trained. First of all, very well trained to be prepared, to be ready to offer blended education. Yes, you're right. We need training, but the problem I found in the last month a very big problem with the training in Italy, because the training was completely 90% concentrated to technology.
Okay.
So after three days, but also after 2 days, we were very well trained on technologies. We knew everything about Zoom, Meet, Classroom, a lot of different systems online at distance are available for teaching and learning. And so we know everywhere. I think that the main point and the big problem is, and it will be also for the future, to open and to expand, to improve a reflection about the content. So how to adapt and also how to change the content of our teaching, our evaluation, our assessment to the new environment, and how to combine the teaching in presence and teaching at distance, because I think that also for us, for Ankara University, will be the same. I suppose that during the first semester of next academic year, only few students will be at the university inside the classroom. So we have to think how we can manage the didactics, the teaching for the students who are in the classroom, or for the students who remain at home. Another problem is the technology availability, okay? Yes, because if you stay at home, you have a Wi-Fi, very working Wi-Fi connection. But if 4 people stay all the day at home, the problem is also how I can guarantee that everyone, no one left behind. Yes, okay, everyone can use the technology. So.
Yes, so it should be at the reach of everyone. Everyone should be able to use it, or well, at least be able to watch the registration, be able to see the program, the registered program or the registered lesson. That would be important, as you say. And of course, the training should be a good one and an efficient one, so that we can afterwards have the benefits of how can I say, of feeling it as part of our training, our formation, and apply it also to other lessons, other conferences, other meetings we have.
Mhm. I think that we are lucky.
Yes.
I mean, you, me, and other colleagues involved in language teaching
Mm-hmm.
and assessment, because we have the skills, the preparation. Yes, we have everything to move to another system to provide our lesson, our classics. But I noted in Italy that the big problem is with the colleagues of other disciplines. I mean,
Yeah.
history of arts, etc. They are completely linked to a very traditional kind of teaching, and so they something like they resist to move on. And so maybe we can share our experiences with Italian language, but also with other language, I mean English, French, German, and also with non-European language to I don't know if to train, but to uh, 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 to, to do something to become aware of the importance of training with technology, because if you use technology, you can't move your contact without change from the classroom to
Mm-hmm.
e-learning
Exactly.
space. Yes, you're good.
Exactly. Yes, it's another format, let's say.
Yeah.
To say it in just one word, I don't know if you would agree. For me, it's a question of format. So when you have a lesson, face-to-face lesson with students, it's something else. It's completely different. But when you have to do it by registering your course or giving some technical tools to the students so that they can use them, it's something else. So that's why I wondered if you shared my idea that blended education would be a solution. So it wouldn't be only face-to-face education, but also it would involve also the technology necessary to have distance learning, distance education, which comes to my second which makes let's say liaison with my second question, which would be, do you think that with distance learning, I mean, by using this technology, universities like yours, ours, could work more profoundly together? We could share maybe more um, programs. There could be common programs that our students might attend, or also the professors might share their knowledge and their materials. What do you think about this era, this COVID-19 era, in this respect?
Mhm. I'm very convinced that any crisis time could be for everyone a positive
Mhm.
time. Yeah, in some sense. I think that you are you need to rethink everything, your
Yeah.
daily life, everything, your and also your work. And so I think that the next month, when the distance learning will be in my opinion, the only solution to guarantee learning, teaching, and assessment everywhere, could be a very, very good opportunity. I agree. I agreed also for the new agreement, a new project, for example, for a double degree.
Yes.
Because in the double degree program, students, have to move to from a university to another one. But in this period, maybe the regulation about the double degree could be too easy to fit. And so I think that distance learning could be a benefit for both the institution, for one university to others, and also for school. Why not? Why not to involve private school teachers who work in private sector in the academic training? Why not? Why not?
That's right. So it could be a way to collaborate more profoundly with other universities to make common programs or even common projects, share ideas, share materials, and share knowledge. And maybe that would be something that would attract our students, also some students who cannot travel for one reason or another would have the chance to attend these courses and have maybe, as you say, double degree or two diplomas, let's say, from two different institutions, recognized by each, which would help them a lot in their lives after university. That would be a solution, maybe.
Yeah, I think that in the next month, maybe the agreement, the collaboration with the US college and US university will be too easy than in the past, because normally the US university seems are something like a castle, and so you have to work a lot to open a collaboration. And then in the COVID era, I think that also US, American, and UK university need to open the doors. Yes, open the doors at distance, and also open the doors to other colleagues from other country. Maybe they have to learn something from our experience, our European context, etc. So it could be a very good occasion to sign a new agreement with other countries in the world.
Yeah, thank you. That's for sure. I share your ideas. And you were saying that if you had some time, which you have now, you would talk about the migrant programs of your university. Sabrina, would you like to say a few words about it, please?
Yes, we are involved in different projects relating to migrants. The topic is the language, But during the last month, we tried to develop some materials also, not only about language and languages, but also with different content. I mean, arts and Italian literature.
Okay.
So it's very difficult. It's a completely new topic for us, but we are lucky because inside the university There are many students from non-European countries, I mean from African countries, etc. And they are involved in the project. They know very well the target group. And so we are trying to produce something also for literature and other matters.
Mm-hmm. So it's not only language, it's also literature, art,
Yes.
history of arts, maybe as far
Yes,
as Italy is
yes, yes,
concerned. That
yes.
would be a major topic, I guess.
Yes, I'm an expert. I'm a researcher in educational linguistics. So I'm specialized in language learning, teaching, and assessment. But other colleagues, also from Italian literature, are very happy to be involved in such a project. And I hope that at the end of the year, December 2020, we can share some new materials for the new migrants in Italy and also in Europe.
Overall in the world, yes. Thank you very much, Professor Sabrina Machetti from University for Foreigners of Siena, who has been our guest today. And her speech was very interesting and enlightening. And thank you for sharing your precious ideas with us. And we hope to see you soon at our university as our guest for a conference, as you have been before. Please do come and visit us in the near future and share your knowledge and experience with us. Thank you, Professor Machetti. I wish you a very nice evening. Thank you for
Thank you very much, Professor Roxanne. Thank you, Nevin. And thank you to everybody, to Ankara University. I like, Nevin, you know, I like very much Turkey, Ankara, Istanbul, and so I miss everything. And so I hope to have the possibility to fly as soon as possible to Turkey. Thank you.
Thank you. Same goes for us. We will be waiting for you, and it will be a pleasure to have you at our university once again. Thank you and have a very nice evening, Professor Machetti. All the best.
Ciao a tutti. Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.